In this episode, we're going to talk about using AI to help with incident triage, which is the process of quickly making sense of security signals and deciding what to do next. For beginners, triage can sound like a dramatic war room, but the core idea is straightforward. You receive many pieces of information, some of them urgent, some of them noise, and you need a disciplined way to sort them. AI can help because it can read a lot of text quickly, summarize what appears to be happening, and highlight patterns that a tired human might miss. The risk is that incident triage is a high-stakes activity where wrong conclusions can cause real harm. If AI summarizes incorrectly, it can send responders down the wrong path. If it prioritizes incorrectly, it can cause teams to ignore a real incident or panic over a harmless anomaly. If it mishandles evidence, it can damage the integrity of an investigation, making it harder to prove what happened and to recover responsibly. Using AI for incident triage therefore requires a careful balance. Leverage speed and synthesis, but preserve evidence integrity and keep human judgment in control. The goal is to make triage faster and clearer without turning it into an automated guess that people accept without checking. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at Cyber.Author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A good place to start is understanding what triage actually needs to produce. A triage decision is not a complete investigation and not a final root cause analysis. It is a first assessment that answers questions like, is this likely real? How severe might it be? What systems might be involved? And what immediate containment steps are appropriate? Beginners sometimes assume you should know everything before acting, but in incident response you often have to act while uncertainty remains. That is why triage is structured around evidence and risk rather than around certainty. AI can help by quickly pulling together the evidence you already have, such as alert details, log snippets, and ticket notes, and presenting them in a coherent narrative. It can also help identify missing information that would improve confidence, such as whether a suspicious login was followed by privileged actions. However, beginners must remember that AI can also fill gaps with plausible-sounding guesses. In triage, guesses are dangerous because they can be mistaken for facts. So the first rule for AI-assisted triage is to separate observed facts from inferred hypotheses. The tool can propose hypotheses, but the system should preserve clear boundaries about what is known and what is suspected. Summarization is one of the most obvious uses of AI in triage, and it can be genuinely helpful when you are dealing with long, messy incident data. Logs can be verbose, alerts can contain multiple fields, and tickets can include fragments of conversation from different people. A good summary reduces cognitive load by telling you what matters without losing critical detail. The challenge is that summaries can distort meaning if they compress too aggressively or if they misinterpret technical data. For beginners, this is similar to summarizing a story. If you change one key detail, the whole plot changes. In security, a single detail like whether an action was successful or failed, or whether a timestamp is before or after another event, can change the entire interpretation. So safe summarization should preserve key artifacts like times, identities, and systems touched, and it should avoid strong claims when the evidence is incomplete. AI can help by extracting those key fields and presenting them in plain language, but humans must verify that the extracted details match the original source. If the summary becomes the only thing people read, you can lose the nuance that matters. So a safe practice is to treat summaries as a navigation aid, not as the record itself. Prioritization is the second major triage function, and it is where AI can both help and harm. Prioritization means deciding which alerts and cases deserve immediate attention, which can wait, and which can be closed as likely noise. AI can help prioritize by recognizing patterns that tend to correlate with real incidents, such as unusual privilege use, unexpected data access, or sequences that look like common attack paths. It can also help by matching alerts to asset criticality, such as whether the affected system is a domain controller, a production database, or a low-risk test environment. However, beginners should understand that prioritization depends heavily on context. A login from a new country might be highly suspicious for one user and completely normal for another. A process execution might be malicious on a server, but benign on a developer workstation. AI does not automatically know your business context unless it is provided carefully. Even then, it can misinterpret. So safe AI-assisted prioritization must be bounded by clear rules and human oversight. AI can suggest a priority and explain why, but a human should confirm by checking the environment-specific context, such as recent travel or known maintenance windows. The purpose is to speed up sorting, not to outsource accountability. Evidence integrity is the third pillar, and it is the one beginners often underestimate because it sounds like a legal concept rather than a practical one. Evidence integrity means the information you use to investigate must remain trustworthy. If evidence can be altered, contaminated, or misattributed, your conclusions become unreliable. In incident response, you often need to answer hard questions later, such as exactly what happened, which accounts were involved, and what data might have been accessed. If you rely on modified or incomplete evidence, you might miss the true scope or accuse the wrong cause. When AI is involved, evidence integrity can be threatened in two ways. First, AI might transform evidence by summarizing or rewriting it, and the transformed version might be treated as the original. Second, AI might encourage people to paste sensitive evidence into places that are not controlled, such as chat systems or documents with broad access, which can leak data and also break chain of custody. The safe approach is to keep original evidence stored in controlled systems, and to treat AI outputs as annotations or interpretations, not as replacements. Beginners should learn that the raw logs and artifacts are the ground truth. Everything else is a layer on top. If you lose the ground truth, you lose the case. A practical way to preserve evidence integrity while using AI is to keep a clear separation between evidence and commentary. Evidence includes original log entries, alert payloads, and system records, and it should be stored unchanged. Commentary includes summaries, hypotheses, and recommended next steps, and it can be generated with AI as long as it is clearly labeled and linked to the underlying evidence. Even without formal tools, the concept is simple. Do not overwrite raw data with paraphrases. Another important practice is to capture metadata about evidence, such as timestamps, sources, and collection methods, because that helps verify authenticity later. In AI-assisted workflows, you also want to avoid copying and pasting full sensitive content unless necessary, because every copy increases exposure. Instead, you can use identifiers and references, such as a case ID or event ID, so the evidence remains in its controlled location. Beginners should see that evidence integrity is part of security hygiene. Just as you handle secrets carefully, you handle evidence carefully. Both can be compromised by sloppy copying and uncontrolled sharing. AI can help triage by identifying what additional evidence would most reduce uncertainty. For example, if an alert suggests suspicious authentication, the next evidence might be whether there were subsequent privilege changes or data access events. If a detection indicates possible malware execution, the next evidence might be process lineage and network connections from that host. The value of AI here is that it can propose investigative questions quickly, helping beginners learn how experienced analysts think. But those questions must be grounded in what telemetry actually exists. If AI suggests checking something you do not collect, it can still be useful as a lesson, but it should not be presented as a requirement that blocks progress. Beginners should learn to think in terms of decision points. What information would change the priority or the containment choice? Then you collect that information and update the triage assessment. This is a loop. Observe, hypothesize, gather evidence, and revise. AI can accelerate the loop by suggesting hypotheses and evidence requests, but humans must keep the loop disciplined and must avoid treating hypotheses as conclusions. That discipline is what prevents AI-assisted triage from becoming AI-driven speculation. Another aspect of safe triage is controlling how AI handles sensitive data. Incident data can contain personal information, credentials, internal host names, and proprietary details. If you feed that data into AI systems without safeguards, you can create a secondary incident. Safe use involves sanitization and redaction, such as removing secrets and limiting sensitive identifiers, while preserving enough context to be useful. It also involves access control, because triage outputs can be widely shared, and you do not want sensitive details in an executive summary. In many organizations, triage notes flow to multiple audiences, and a one-size-fits-all summary can be risky. AI can help produce different levels of summary, but the system should enforce what can be included at each level. Beginners should recognize that good triage communication is role-based. An investigator needs technical detail, while a manager needs impact and next steps. AI can help tailor content, but the rules about what is allowed to be shared must be clear. Otherwise, you risk oversharing sensitive evidence or undersharing critical facts. It is also important to address how AI can introduce subtle bias into triage. For example, the model might assume that certain alerts are always high severity because they sound scary, or it might downplay unusual events because it frames them as likely benign. It might also be influenced by how the prompt is framed, such as if a user calls something a false positive in the prompt, the model may echo that assumption. Beginners should learn to watch for anchoring, which is the tendency to stick to the first narrative you hear. AI-generated summaries can become anchors, shaping how the team thinks. That is why verification loops are essential in triage. Check key facts, challenge assumptions, and compare with independent evidence. Another mitigation is to keep triage reasoning explicit, such as stating why a case is prioritized and what facts support that priority. This turns triage into a transparent decision rather than a feeling. Transparency helps teams correct errors quickly. AI can help draft transparent reasoning, but humans must ensure it is accurate and that it reflects actual evidence. To close, using AI for incident triage can improve speed and clarity by producing summaries that reduce cognitive load, by suggesting prioritization based on observed patterns, and by proposing what evidence to gather next. The main risks are misinterpretation, misprioritization, and damage to evidence integrity if AI outputs are treated as ground truth or if sensitive artifacts are copied into uncontrolled places. Safe use requires separating facts from hypotheses, preserving original evidence unchanged, and treating AI outputs as annotations that point back to sources. Prioritization must remain context-aware and human-owned, because severity depends on environment-specific factors that AI may not know reliably. Evidence integrity depends on controlled storage, careful sharing, and disciplined documentation that distinguishes raw artifacts from interpretation. When you combine AI's ability to synthesize with human verification loops and strong evidence handling practices, triage becomes faster without becoming sloppy. The beginner mindset is that AI can help you see the shape of an incident, but only evidence can prove it, and only humans can responsibly decide what to do next.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.